Hello everyone, I am Cabrera, and now we will talk about traveling violations in basketball. So what is traveling? According to FIBA, traveling is a violation that occurs when a player holding a live ball moves one or both of their feet illegally. Also, traveling occurs if the pivot foot is lifted before the ball is dribbled or passed. So, if this happens, this will result in a turnover. Or this means that ang bola kay mapunta sa opponent team. Okay, so earlier I've said pivot foot. So what exactly is a pivot foot? So according to FIBA again, a pivot is the legal movement in which a player holding a live ball steps once or more than once in any direction with the same foot, while the other foot is which we called the pivot foot is kept at its point of contact with the court. So this basically means nga, for example, here, you'll see a picture here. So if you are holding the ball, so example, my left foot here is the foot where I will step once or more than once in any direction. Okay? So in this foot nako, kay pwede ko maka-step in any direction more than once sa right side nako nga foot. So this is what we call the pivot foot. So kani nga pivot foot kay dapat remain siya sa ground. Okay, dapat dili siya mulihok because the other foot nimo pwede na siya mulihok, but the left foot or the right foot or your pivot foot must remain on the ground. Okay, so again, when we say pivot foot, it is the foot that remains on the floor when the player starts to move. Rules differ depending on how the ball is received, while standing still, after a dribble, and in motion. Establishing a pivot foot by a player who catches a live ball on the court. A player who catches the ball while standing with the both feet on the court. First bullet. The moment one foot is lifted, the other foot becomes the pivot foot. So, if imong foot, which is the left foot, mo na siya imuhang na saka or na lift lang, so automatically nga ang imuhang right foot will be your pivot foot. So, pwede sa siya nga magka-change. If ever nga imuhang right foot ang imuhang na-lift or nasaka, then automatically ang imuhang left foot ang mahimong pivot foot. Next bullet. To start a dribble, the pivot foot may not be lifted before the ball is released from the hands. If mo start ka og dribble, your pivot foot dapat dili siya musaka before ni mo mabuhian ang bola. Okay, so dapat jud nga unahon nimo og dribble. Okay, dribble ka una, then by that pwede na ka mo move. Next, to pass or shoot for a goal, the player may jump off a pivot foot, but neither foot may be returned to the court before the ball is released from the hands. So here, if ganahan ka mo pasa or mo shoot sa bola for a goal, pwede siya mo jump gamit ang pivot foot. But dapat ang pag-jump o ang pag-shoot kay dungan sila, okay? Kay di man sad pwede nga mag-una ka og ambak nya, iguman ni mag-ambak, mo shoot ka, so dapat dungan sila. Shoot and ambak dapat dungan sila. A player who catches the ball while progressing or upon completion of a dribble may take 2 steps in coming to a stop, passing, or shooting the ball. After receiving the ball, nanana nimo ang bola, a player shall release the ball to start the dribble before the second step. The first step occurs when one foot or both feet nimo kay na-touch sa court after gaining control of the ball. The second step kay it will occur after the the first step when the other foot touches the court or both feet touch the court simultaneously or at the same time.
So first, if both feet touch the floor at the same time, the player can choose either foot as the pivot foot. But if they jump, neither foot may return to the floor unless the ball is already released. Next, if the player lands on only one foot, that foot automatically becomes the pivot foot. Next, if the player jumps off one foot and then lands on both feet at the same time, the player cannot pivot. If they jump again, the ball must be released before either foot touches the ground. Next, if a player jumps and lands with both feet at the same time, they can choose which foot will be the pivot foot. But once they lift one foot, the other one becomes the pivot foot. Also, once a player ends their dribble, they're not allowed to touch the floor again with the same foot or both feet in a row. That will be a violation. So a player falling, lying, or sitting on the court, it's allowed if a player slides, sits, or lies down while holding the ball. That's okay. But if they roll or try to stand up while holding the ball, that's a violation. So there are common traveling situations. So first, lifting the pivot foot before dribbling.
When you start dribbling, if you lift your pivot foot before you dribble, a travel will be called. To avoid this, make sure you release the ball before moving your pivot foot.
Next is taking more than 2 steps without dribbling.
When you receive the ball, if you take more than 2 steps without dribbling, you will be called out for traveling. To avoid this, remember to take no more than 2 steps before releasing the ball for a shot or pass.
And last, falling or sliding while holding the ball. So legal versus illegal moves. In the legal, jab step and step back if executed properly. In the illegal, kicking the ball or striking it with any part of the leg and jumping and landing without releasing the ball. Next is how referees call traveling. So referees blow the whistle and rotate their fists. Their positioning is key to detecting violations, and calls are often based on pivot foot and timing.
Here is a video about traveling violation.
By Clanton on the SWAT team. And beautiful play. And they've called a travel on Painters. They had him wide open, fast break, and Painters can't believe they've called a travel. Watch this. Christopoulos gets it to him. Yep, I think he did actually.
So as you can see on the video, the player who is holding the ball took 3 steps without even dribbling. So that is a traveling violation.
Thank you for watching and listening. I hope you learned something from our report about traveling violations in basketball.